that you care.
The first white lady of soul, Dusty Springfield, emerged in the early 60s as part of the British invasion. Her music defied traditional, racial, and artistic boundaries. She was a true pop diva and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These performances from classic television appearances reflect her place in musical history.
I thought she was amazing, absolutely amazing. You know, the way she looked, the way she sang, she was just great. I became a fan immediately.
Anytime great music comes up in a conversation, her name will come up.
So if you're thinking of great, true love is, all you gotta do is hold him and kiss him and squeeze him. Ooh, love, yeah, just do it. And after you do,
It's very difficult to name my favorite Dusty song because she sang so many different sorts of songs because she was so versatile. She was able to sing all sorts of things and sing them very well.
A lot of singers have a certain definitive song and a certain moment in their careers, but she had quite a few of those moments.
I Only Want to Be With You was her signature song for a long time. I think it moved on after that, but it was the one that really, really introduced her to the big public. I can't remember the first time I heard I Only Want to Be With You, but I remember thinking right away it was a great pop record.
She was maybe the first blue-eyed soul singer, the first, white singer that had that soulful feeling and sound in her throat that, up until that time only black people had been able to get to.
I think Dusty was the white lady of soul, without a doubt. It was a little bit like Tom Jones, when he first came on the scene, a lot of people thought he was black, and I think a lot of people thought Dusty was black too. Surprise, surprise. Dusty and I were sharing a dressing room, but it was in a in the casino at San Remo, and the dressing rooms were sort of just kind of put up, especially and they didn't quite go up to the ceiling. You know what I mean? Those sort of things, a bit like toilets, And there we were, sort of in our underwear, chatting away, getting ready for the show, and then we happened to look up, and there were about 10 paparazzi leaning over the top, taking pictures of us. The amazing thing is that I never saw any of those pictures. Now, what do you make of that? They just weren't good enough. We weren't good enough. What does it mean?
It's the closest I've ever felt to a song. I don't know why. It's sort of bittersweet song, and I think that's why I like it. It's really a nice song.
Oh, I think the Memphis sessions were her best. I think, having recorded in Memphis myself with the same producer and the same musicians, there's something about Memphis, certainly at that time anyway, that was so different from London, because everyone was talking about the London sound, and it was so great to get to Memphis, and everything's kind of laid back, and everybody talking like that, and the musicians were kind of, laid back to a frightening degree. And it was just great. And so you let your hair down. You just let it hang out, and I'm sure that's how she felt. I'm sure that's how Dusty felt.
For the first time, she was kind of equal. She was matched with the band. A lot of times, the band or orchestra or whatever it was, they didn't compare to what she was doing. And I think this was maybe one of the first times in her career when she was, when the band was equal to her challenge. And I think that's why there was such a magic to what she did in Memphis.
I would love to have sung Preacher Man. I probably wouldn't have been able to sing it the way she did. Probably not as well as her, but I would love to have had a go at it. Well, I do have a go at it in my own living room. Like many. I think that's a great, great song. Sassy song. It's sexy.
try. When it started sweet talking to me, come on, tell me everything is alright. Kiss and tell me everything is alright. Can I get away again tonight? The only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. Yes, he was. He was. Oh, yes, he was. Yes, he was. How well I remember the look that was in his eyes, stealing kisses from me on the slide, taking time to make time, telling me that he's all mine, learning from each other's knowing, looking to see how much we've grown, and the only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever teach me, sweet love, the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever teach me, the only one who could ever teach me was the sweet love, the son of a preacher man.
Son of a Preacher Man was kind of a bit risque, you know, this white girl singing this about this preacher man, you know. That's what made it so great, you know, and she had just the right voice, just the right attitude for it. Great record.
It did have a real sexual content to it that, you know, not every singer could get away with, and she was able to do that, because it wasn't like she was telling a risque story. It was like she was sharing a real experience that she had had, you know, and you could kind of relate to it, that yeah, she was telling you something that you'd heard for the first time, but you kind of did know it somewhere on the inside also.
You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, I think, took her to a different place. You know, it was a more adult song, and at the same time a more universal song. It wasn't so teeny bopper as I Only Want to Be With You. I think it's a great song, and I love the way she sings it, because, I mean, it is a dramatic song, but she didn't over-dramatize it. The production was dramatic. It had a little sort of Phil Spector feel to it, but because she had this kind of funky thing in her voice, it didn't get too dramatic. And that's what I love about her. She doesn't take it too far over the top. She really loved Motown. I have a feeling that she probably listened to that more than anything else. And so it had quite an effect on her. But she did it well. You know, lots of people tried to do it, and they it just sounds kind of silly and slightly embarrassing. But she really, really knew how to do it.
The Motown thing was so key to her. She was so moved by that thing. I think she could record a lot of that music like she wrote it herself.
I find it an effort to keep up appearances, because it takes so long. I'd rather be asleep. I'm really very hard to describe oneself anyway, because you don't see. I'm very short-sighted, as I said before. I'm constantly peering in mirrors, and people say, "My God, isn't she conceited?" And I'm actually not seeing anything. I mean, I can look in a mirror from here and I can't see. You don't see how much eye black I've got, and I can't see that. I just know I've got a lot of eye black.
Well, Dusty had this very, very blonde hair, often in a kind of beehive-type style, and a great deal of eye makeup. I mean, lots and lots and lots of it. I mean, I was told, I don't know if this was true, that she never took it off, and that, you know, from time to time she would sort of run a pin through the lashes to make them look like lashes again when they were stuck together. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but it's a fun story.
When I met her for the first time in Memphis, she came down to record. She had a very striking presence with that hair and those eyes, you know.
I was living in France at that time, and we were all well into that look, but Dusty took it to the degree. But it suited her. She looked good. Oh, I think Dusty enjoyed it enormously, being part of that British invasion. You know, we all did. It was sort of unexpected. I mean, certainly for me it was. You know, you can't plan these things. There's no mastermind behind all of this. And I'm sure that when Dusty made it in the States, she must have been over the moon.
The British influence and Dusty was a major part of that. They brought a new thing to it. They even took what we created and took it up to another, even challenged us to keep doing our music to the best of our ability.
I just thought it was a very exciting time. Everything seemed to be like sort of exploding, and you know, for many years, the traffic was going one way between. It was like Americans coming to England. They were the big stars, and you know, no Brits could get a look in the States. And suddenly, probably because of the Beatles, the gates were opened, and there we all were. We were given the opportunity to become stars in the States, and that was great.
If you just give love and never get love, you better let love depart. I know it's so, and yeah, I know I can't get you out of my heart. You made me leave my happy home. You took my love and now you're gone. Since I fell for you, oh, life brings such misery and pain. I guess never be the same since I fell for you. Oh, baby, baby, it's too bad and it's too sad, but I'm in love with you. You hurt me, you run off, you desert me, but what can I do? I'm still in love with you, and I guess never see the light. I get the blues most every night since I fell for you. Since I fell for you. From a point of view of live audience, it's a sense of achievement and makes me feel warm if I please people. But when it comes to choosing songs, in general, it's what I feel.
Yeah.
And I hope that they're gonna like it.
Oh, I love How Can I Be Sure? That is one great, great song. All the way through, all these different sort of phases in it, you know, it's just, it goes all over the place and it's wonderful and she sings it divinely. I would have loved to have sung that.
If she was in love, you really believed it, and if, you know, if she was hurting, you could just hear that heartbreak in her throat, and you just had to become aware of, you know, who, you ask yourself, who is that?
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby. If you need me, call me, no matter where you are. No, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no mountain high enough, baby, ain't no valley low enough, there ain't no mountain high enough.
Well, being a perfectionist, I think it's, you know, none of us are ever going to reach it. And that's what makes it such a terrible thing, you know, because you're constantly striving to get there and you're not going to get there.
She was a perfectionist. I don't think she ever really pleased herself, and I think that was the essence of her greatness.
Some people are very free with it, but I would imagine Dusty was not, that she was really striving for that thing, you know, which we never get to. I think she got to perfection, but she probably didn't think so. I think she found it too much pressure being a star. That's my feeling about her. And from what I've heard about her, you know, trying to analyze it, that's what it feels like to me, that she was not particularly happy with it.
It is very difficult on a female, especially a solo artist. I think traveling, spending your life moving from town to town is difficult on anyone, but I think it was difficult on her, and it cost her something, and I think it's something you could hear in her music.
Dusty had great technique. You know, that's the sort of stuff that an audience is not supposed to know about, you know, when, you know, it comes in very handy when you're not absolutely in best condition. You know, your voice isn't really quite right and you still have to sing, and that's when your technique comes in. And she had wonderful, wonderful technique, and it was seamless, you know. I could hear it because I'm a singer, you know, but I liked the way Dusty, I liked her attitude. When I was a little girl, I used to listen to Peggy Lee. Peggy Lee was my favorite singer, and she had some kind of mystery, a kind of strangeness about the way she sang. And for me, Dusty was the modern version of that.
The name I like that I've got is Catherine.
That's your real name?
It's one of them, yeah.
One of them.
It's Mary Isabel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien. It's a funny thing with my name, when I see it written or hear it spoken, it's, I feel disassociated. It's almost another person. But not always. But sometimes when I look at the name or hear it, it's like the song we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to associate myself with the song.
First of all, I think Dusty was a lovely name. And Dusty, there was something in her voice that wasn't exactly dusty, you know, but it was kind of husky and sultry and interesting.
The thing I got out of her recording was the importance that she placed on the emotion of the song. I think that's why she could do different, you know, what people want to say are different genres or change direction. And I don't think that it was such a conscious change of directions as it was an emotional. If she liked something in an emotional sense and it was true to her, she could sing it, whether it was a Motown thing or a skiffle thing or a country or a pop thing. I think her music was, the motor behind all that stuff was her heart and her emotions and her belief in what she was singing. And I think that gave her the power to do lots of different things, and all those things worked.
There's a kind of funkiness to her that was, even in her more dramatic moments or softer moments, there was this sassy kind of underlining thing that was right there all the time. I loved it.
People get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no ticket, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel humming. Don't need no baggage, you just thank the Lord. People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the door and board them, for there's room for all amongst the loved the most. For the hopeless sinner who has lost all mankind just to save his own. Faith is the hope, open the door and board up. You know there's hope, you just gotta get them so. People get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is hope. Open the door, board it. Don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord.
Just, I don't know, it's just a nice warm feeling to be appreciated.
Yeah.
Sometimes people appreciate you, or me, or anyone in this particular business, and they like you for what you are and what you do and what you sing, and you might not think, after a performance, say they come and say, you were great, and I didn't think I was great. And it took me several years to learn that it's very important what they think, and not quite so important what I think. Because if it makes them happy, that's what I'm in it for, to make them happy. His kisses will start that won't get you into his heart. So if you're thinking of heartbreak, true love is
just hold him and kiss him and squeeze him and love him. Yeah, just do it. And after you do,